We don't know if this is gonna ever be over.
Mhm.
It might happen that it might go on when my nephews become adults. We don't know. We don't, nobody has a clue on what's gonna happen.
Good day. Welcome to the Curious Observer podcast with my guest and good friend, Jesse Davila. How you doing, my man?
Doing good, doing good. Another day. Blessed that I'm awake and that we
Oh,
woke
man.
up this morning.
Yeah, I can tell you've been working out. What's that? What's going on?
Little by little, trying to lose weight and gain muscle, but it's
Mm.
pretty hard to get all that in and eat right, eat the
Yeah.
proper stuff. So,
It's almost as though the bad stuff is a lot more readily available than the good stuff. That's kind of a
yes.
weird thing that has happened, and maybe it always has been. And what kind of things are you doing that's helping you find the good?
Well, I've been online looking for different recipes that I can cook with the stuff that I have in the refrigerator,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
chicken, ground beef, different items.
Well, something I wanted to we wanted to bring up in this podcast was I'm glad that we're speaking on health, on good health, and I could tell that you've been working on that. Was something that Jesse really wanted to talk about was that you how long have you been now testing negative from COVID?
Well, it's been what I think about 2 months, give or take.
Yeah, and the
So,
whole family tested positive, right? Y'all got hit at the same time.
yes, we did. It was first my dad and my mom,
Mm.
and they were in December, like the beginning, mid of December. And then my brother ended up, he was thinking that he had a cold, like it was a flu, but then he got worse. So he ended up going to the hospital.
I remember he was
So,
texting me that he was hitting over 100 in the
yes,
in fevers.
his fevers were 100, over 100. So he went to the hospital. They gave him antibiotics and they just gave him fluids, and then they gave him antibodies to just protect him because he also has MS.
Ooh,
So,
can you help us unpack what MS means?
muscular dystrophy, I
Okay.
believe, and he also has that. So he has another sickness on top of what he had when with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But he pulled out. They gave him the antibodies. They sent him home, so he quarantined. Then the kids got it.
How were they?
So so they were good. One of them had a slight fever,
Which
but
one?
uh, I don't remember which one. I think it was Jacob that had
Okay.
a slight fever, and they were the other two.
He's in
They
middle
had
school, by the way.
yes, he's the one in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and then the two little ones, one's in Head Start and the other one's in
First
elementary.
grade.
So,
Yeah.
so they were like if they didn't have it, they were jumping
Mm-hmm.
around, they were acting normal. So, but they were positive for
And
it.
technically, they did test positive.
Yes, they did test positive.
So all the adults were essentially the ones that were experiencing. I just remember uh, from Jason and his wife were texting me. That, didn't he go twice to the
Yes,
to?
the first time was because he was having aches, body aches. So he would, like I'm saying, like I was telling you, he thought it was a flu or
Hmm.
a little bug. So he
Probably
went the
something that he's
first.
experienced before that was like, oh, it's probably just like what I've experienced before, except it
Yes.
was also positive from the results.
Yes. He went the first time and he was released from the hospital. The second time he went back was when he had the high fever.
So the first
The
time,
fever.
why did he go the first time? So it was not because of the fever.
It, it was not because of COVID. It was the second time that he went back was
Oh,
because of
okay. I didn't
the
understand that the first time. Pardon me. So are you saying that when he first went to the hospital, he it was had nothing to do with COVID? He did not test positive. Is that what you're saying?
well, the first time he went, they tested him,
They tested him.
but they
Okay.
didn't give him results right away.
Hmm.
So he went back home. Then when it happened, they called him and told him that he was positive.
Hmm.
So
And
he went.
how was well? So are you saying that when he tested positive, when after he got the results after leaving the first time from the hospital, he thought he just had a flu. Then
Yes,
he just thought like he had a little bug, no
yes,
biggie kind of thing, right?
and he was just taking over the counter stuff, like
Hmm.
if it was for the flu. But then
Okay.
he started getting the high fevers the second time. So he went back. And that's when they told him that he was positive.
Interesting.
So,
Wow. Well,
so
it's not. Oh, I know he was messaging me that it was not the funnest experience when he was, in the hospital, right?
yeah,
So how long was his recovery, and when did it affect you?
because when the time that he had, well, we were with him for Christmas.
Hmm.
We celebrated Christmas with him. So at that time, he was thinking that it was just a little bug. He had runny nose. So he wasn't thinking that much of it as COVID. But we met with him, and probably a week later is when we got tested and we came out positive.
A week later, right?
Yes,
From him testing positive.
from him testing. Yes.
Okay. And what was it like for yourself? And did you, especially that beginning process? What was that like?
For me, I ended up getting the test and I ended up testing asymptomatic.
Hmm.
So I could have been the carrier
So in
for
terms
it.
of experience of what how it affected your mom and dad, and I wanted to ask you how it affected them through your eye, and certainly what you just shared with your brother, it affected him in a fever, not so much like a enough to get him to the hospital, right?
Yes.
And prior to that, it felt like a cold. That's how he felt like, oh, I know this feeling, but it was actually COVID, and
Yes.
it took him to the hospital too because of his fever. What was it like for you? So what was it? What was I saying? Lost my train of thought there. I think I was just trying to say that because for you it was zero symptoms, right?
Yes.
Was it also like that for who again?
Well, actually, I did have symptoms, but not as bad as everybody else did.
Hmm.
I had the loss of taste and the smell. I lost those two. And then I also had somewhat of needing to for diarrhea with
Hmm.
the
So in
symptom
terms
that was.
of fever and in terms of aches, that was not there, but in the senses were affected,
Yes,
and
the
and
senses.
the bowels.
Yes. And like for my mom and dad, they ended up having chills,
Hmm.
a little bit of fever. My mom, the same time that my brother was in the hospital, my mom went in the second time that my brother went in to the hospital.
Oh.
So my mom was in the hospital. She stayed for a couple of days because she was having shortness of breath, of air. She was
Mhm.
having airway problems. So they
Mhm.
gave her oxygen. Her symptoms that she has prior sickness. Her lungs are bad. So this didn't help her. The COVID
Mhm.
didn't help her in that sense. So she was sent to the hospital. We made her go to the hospital because she was having trouble breathing. So
Right.
she went to the hospital. They put her on oxygen. She was good. They gave her IVs, they gave her the antibodies. So prior to that, she was already in quarantine going about 3 weeks into quarantine because my dad was the one that tested positive first before my mom.
So she must have gotten it from wherever your dad got it, right?
Yes.
But it
And
didn't
then my
affect her until 3 weeks later. Is that what you're saying? Or no?
for no, it didn't affect her right away. It was like my dad got tested on a Friday and my mom started feeling symptoms the following week. But
Hmm.
for her to go to the hospital, it was time, you know.
And that was
It,
probably because of the pre-existing conditions that she had,
yes, yes.
and it probably started to wear and take a toll in terms of not progressing in a good direction, which was a good move to catch to go to the hospital. And what
And
was the go for it?
that's what they told her. If she wouldn't have gone in at the time she would have gone in, it would have been worse.
Hmm.
It would have been totally different outcome.
And how did y'all come to the like what indications of us was it the breath only or what other indications came up when you were like, you know what, we should take you to the hospital?
Was like she was always on the phone. You could hear her. She was always like upbeat. And
Mm.
then when we would call her to check in on her, or if we would call her to ask her if she needed anything from the store, she didn't sound herself.
Mm.
So I would call my dad and I told my dad, well, what's going on? So my dad was more the
In
one
case
that was telling
for
me.
sure, because people don't know your mama, she's very upbeat. She's very, hey, how's it going, so for you to say that wasn't there, that was an indication for sure, right?
And I told my dad, she doesn't sound good. And my dad was scared.
Mm.
My dad was scared to take her to the hospital and not get her back.
Mm.
So
what
he
what
was
helped
on
him make
it.
that decision though?
It was hard because we were telling him it's better for her to go now and maybe she will come out. It's just we need to get her better. We
We need
need her to
answers.
be well and get answers and see. You never know. She'll come back. And we had a whole prayer group. A
Mm.
whole prayer is the big thing. If you believe in him, he will come and help.
Mm.
And
And
we
the way he
had
came through for the family was, and yes, let's get moving.
yes. And I told my dad we need to take her. And it's hard
It took
because
some convincing.
yes, because
Hmm.
they've been married so long. So he's a little tough too to convince.
Well, you know
And
what? I'm
my
curious.
mom
How did it affect your dad? How did it
and
affect it when he tested positive?
the same thing. It was chills. He had a little fever, but it never went into the hundreds. He had a slight fever. Um, the eating, sometimes he would eat, sometimes they wouldn't eat because the taste and the smell weren't there. So you
Oh,
can't taste your food. You have all different flavors and you can't taste any of the flavors in your
so
food.
but because he felt good, right? It he was able to, I guess, not feel that he had to go to the hospital, right? But
Yes,
for his wife, watching that it was not getting better, and you were saying, I interrupted that, for how long? Wait, I think you were about to say how long they've been married.
I think 39 years
And
they've
it
been
was
married.
just the thought of, just okay, let's go to the hospital, into the unknown hands, which, we want to think that, you know putting in the hands of the hospital, we're in the good hands, and thankfully that's what it was, right?
Yes, and it did, and it was like that. And my then with my dad works for a paper company, so they deliver to hospitals, nursing homes. So
Oh,
it's all in the air, it's up in the air where he got it from. So, but my dad says that the week before, in that week, he was at four different hospitals. So he thinks it might have been something around the hospital.
yeah, he must have contracted it then. Yeah.
So he doesn't know. But he said that that week he was in Austin at in the hospital in Austin, a couple of nursing homes. So it's up in the air how he got it.
Yeah.
But I definitely like the company because they took care of my dad. While he was on while he was on leave, they paid him for having COVID.
Wow.
So they helped out a lot in that way.
Yeah.
That
It's
they
not
didn't
certainly
do.
not something easy for a company to do that, and for them to still do that. That is very important.
And it was hard. It's good that a company can take care of their employees the way that this company did.
Well, shout out to your dad's company, man. That's a good heart for them, and for him to be able to have the peace of mind. Let me just get over this and vámonos, right? And but yeah, I'm happy that your dad made the decision to feel comfortable. All right, let's bring my wife to the hospital so that she can get better. And you said how many days she was there?
She was there 5 days.
Oh, and Jesse was just there for 1 or 2 days.
Jason was there
Jason, yeah,
for 3 days.
3.
Yes, it was
Mm.
the first time he was there for that one day that he went to go get tested.
Did
And
he
then,
have taste? Lots of. Did he experience that
yes,
too?
everybody has loss of taste.
Even the kiddos.
I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
I haven't. It's We haven't asked him, but all the adults have had loss of taste.
It's too strong to notice for the adults, and the kids. It's not notable, and I'd be curious. I'd like to follow up with you just out of curiosity
Yeah,
if
I
they experience
never
that.
have. I never have asked
Mm.
the kids or asked Terry if the kids have complained or Jason to see if they have ever complained about the food tastes different.
Wow, and well, now I'm curious. Who is still has everyone recovered from with attaining their tastes and their senses? So would you say it was just smell and taste, or just taste?
It was smell and taste.
Okay.
There's it's. I don't know if it's connected in one way,
Hmm.
but it was the loss of smell and taste
And
for
now,
everybody.
how is it? How is that? Has it still lingered? Because I've heard some from different people and family that that certain tastes have been still affected. We don't know if it's permanent, but it still has lingered since. Some have gotten their taste back. I So I'm just curious. Well, what was it
For
like for you?
me, for me, it has the taste and smell has came back.
Okay.
Like for my I don't know. I think still my girlfriend still has somewhat of her taste and smell that is still not there.
Wow.
Gary, my brother's wife, also has that problem that the taste hasn't came back. I don't know about my brother. My mom is starting to taste again,
Oh, good.
and my dad also. He's back and he's able to taste.
Now, I remember you mentioning to me, and I'm curious, how's the progress for your mom? That she was in an oxygen tank, even into today. Is that something that she will need to continue to have, or is what are they saying to her?
We would have to find out with the lung specialist
Wow.
because my mom talked to her doctor like in the beginning of the month, and she said that she couldn't do nothing. She would have to talk to her lung specialist to see if it's going to be a long term thing or if it's going to be short term.
So right now, is just keep doing that. We just want to see how that's going to help, and because certainly right now that's what you need.
Yes, and what the doctor told her that she's not able to take off the machine. So she needs to have it on 24/7.
Wow. Well,
So,
certainly it's isn't this just the craziest of things that that's affecting our people, our family, our friends, our neighbors, and no one could have seen this coming. Like imagine just it right now is the 29th of January, and we can still say over just a year ago none of this was something that could have been forecasted as a reality. In just a couple months time we're about to reach the interval of the 1 year anniversary of when everything changed, right? And and even then when everything shifted, who would have thought that we would still be in it? January 29th, 2021. Man,
yeah,
what comes to mind when you hear that?
what comes to mind, it's just everybody, like right now, it's just makes me think about life in general
Mhm.
because everybody's different. So my story is because I want to let people know that we got to do something and we got to do everything that is told to us, like
And
wash your hands, do all the positive things,
mhm.
because you never know who around you is sick, very
Mhm.
that's ill, and you don't want to pass it on to the elderly. You
Mhm.
have people out there still have their grandparents, their moms and dads that they got to take care of. And I just want my story to be out there to let other people know that we were sick. We were really sick, and we don't want this to happen to them.
Yeah, we're smacked by the thing that locked down the whole world and every way in the like for your mother, for example, that was so impactful that even today there's a 24/7 mask that has to be worn, an oxygen tank, and to the other extent where like yourself, it was okay, I lost taste of smell. I had some diarrhea. But I was practically asymptomatic. Everyone's okay. The kids are running around. They look okay. That's confusing. It's not something we could just know. Okay, it's gonna hit us this way, like chicken pox. You get chicken pox, and once you hit it, you're done. All right, we're done. Here we go. Yeah, terminamos. Sas. It's nothing like that. It's the psychology that hits our minds, and it just sits on our culture differently. And and what I was gonna say earlier, from what you said, from what is being told to us, yes, it's important. And most importantly, the very first thing that you talked about, which was what? taking care of our health.
And it's I know that to take care of our health, for some people it's hard
Mm-hmm.
because we've learned how to eat and do things that are bad for our body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just day by day try making a a different choice in your life. Try to eat healthy, try to go out and walk, do something that helps you.
Add some resistance to the body.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I have to give shout out to you, man. You look great, man. I can tell you've been really channeling those words that you're saying through your body. And you know what a well, you know what? You made me think of a poem. If I may kick off a poem to you, it's along the lines of what we were saying about just looking at time, looking at life, looking at, you know, just reflecting. And this is one that came to me on it's a first draft. So I'm going to try to do it justice. It came through me on the 24th, a couple of days ago. It was on a Sunday of January 2021. And then this came to me at 7:24 a.m. So Jesse, what comes to mind? Oh, how distant it has become, the initial arrival of the great shift in how we experience a day within the continuum of days. How much may we now recall experience pre-quarantine of even the mere utility of the internet? What now has become apparent more than ever, exactly what it is we virtually say, this global event of the pandemic. Oh, how we have effectively been thrusted onto such miraculous yet mysterious invisible net. What comes to mind, Jesse?
I feel like what comes to mind on this poem is like, for me, it's just opening my eyes after having the whole family having it,
Mm-hmm.
having COVID, and realizing that my life would be different if my mom wouldn't be here,
Mm-hmm.
because she was the rock for us. She was the base of, we would go talk to her, we would just have days with her and go eat, go do different things. And I think that poem hits me because I would always think of that when she was going to the hospital, the same way my dad thought of it, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I would have never got her back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what that poem hits me.
And it's so good that the processing of making a decision to, okay, let's go, for raising the likelihood that that can be further extended. And
Yes.
that's beautiful, man. I'm happy that as much as it's taken the form of a, 24/7, you still got to wear this and this and that, that time shared within familia, within, you know the way I tell my siblings, it's like I tell my brother and sister, it's like we're flesh neighbors, right? We and and we happen to crash land through our parents, through them. They invited us, and we and well, uh, so it's like we get to see our family as, I guess what I'm trying to say is, flesh neighbors. And it's like, wow, we arrived through this world together through the same portal, which we call parents. and we've been unfolding this journey and trying to figure things out since then into today. What a miracle it even is to be here, right? This whole grand time. And here's an event that unifies that's something that we can now rest assured everyone experience. It's not like pre-quarantine where it was never something that there. What thing was going on that unified everybody? The most recent thing, at least to my memory, was 9/11, right? At least for our country. I can't speak for the whole world. I don't know what that's like, but I'm sure they would view it as like, oh, something bad happened to that country, right? But when it's something like a pandemic, everything's closed. The trade stops. People that depend on other, like say on our country, and we don't even know, and they don't even know, and trade stops and commerce ends. And what happened to the things that were normally here? Why, like everything freezes for a long time? We can't even fathom what are the ramifications? What's going to be the outcomes of such effect that we don't even see it? Are the effects still going to linger for how many years? How many decades? Will it linger even to our kids? I know that like Jesse's kids, Jason's kids, how much of an imprint this is going to be something that they will continue to experience on their journey, just as we are. Yeah. That's a weird thought, but I'm curious, Jesse, what comes to mind with that?
And it's true because we don't know if this is gonna ever be over. It might happen that it might go on when my nephews become adults. We don't know. Nobody has a clue on what's going to happen.
Certainly, there's nothing indicating this is going to be done like tomorrow. The way we thought when it first locked down. Remember that feeling? Oh, it's just 2 weeks. That feeling, okay, maybe 2 months. Yeah. That feeling that we perhaps are experiencing more widely, is it like it's not that far of a stretch to think 2 years? Really? I guess so. Hopefully not. Maybe shorter, but I would not be surprised we're encroaching year 1.
Yep.
Yeah. That's quite the observation of time, right? But ultimately, it gives us the opportunity to reflect, and I wonder how much of that we're kind of reflection that we're getting to, like, for example, the mere matter of fact that you and I are having this conversation about life. And it's cool to see people jump in and listen to this kind of conversation and feel that there's a sort of resonance through their own eye. That to me that's something that I wonder how much of this would have already not existed if it weren't for such a shift that arrived into today. And, this makes me think of a short poem that my brother composed. I'll say it and let's dance with it. It goes like this. And I've shared it with another on a previous episode, so I think I'll be ready this time. Fate is inevitable. Accept it. Move forward. And there's no way around it. Now, that's the poem. That does not suggest, okay, since fate is inevitable, I guess we just wait around for everything to just happen, right? No, I mean, it's like the ball moves, this rock still revolves, right? And because it revolves, the rotating of it is inevitable. and we must accept it. And therefore, the moving forward is the call to action. Let's get healthy. Let's protect ourselves. Let's do the thing doesn't that doesn't raise the likelihood for other people to be affected. But ultimately, raise what does it really mean to raise our health? Lessen the likelihood. If it's inevitable, maybe you know what? What if this virus and many more viruses is inevitable and we must accept it and we must move forward because there's no way around it, but the ball still moves, right? What comes to mind?
But that ball's moving, but we do not have to move with it. We can actually do stuff to make ourselves better where the ball can possibly move this way instead of moving this way.
But it moves regardless. Yes.
Exactly. But we're in that ball, but we're the ones changing the way it moves.
Mm. And that's the experience. Experience occurs regardless,
Exactly.
and perhaps, as much as like to me, what comes to mind, as much as it's recommended to quarantine, that is a good idea. Technically, of course, don't take advice from me. I'm no health advisor, but this is just what comes to mind. It's very raw. Technically it makes sense to quarantine because you don't catch the infamous disease. And I'm wondering, my question that pops to my head is what else can be done so that the strength of our immunity, the strength of our body, the strength of our, handling, should it be inevitable that we still get it, that there would be a fighting chance from its possible damage, right? What do you think?
And that's why they tell you, like, take your vitamins. Vitamins, vitamins A, B, C, D, E,
I hear
fish
that D
oil.
is especially.
Yes, fish oil, your omega 369, all that. Like for me, when we were in quarantine, I drank, my mom was drinking a tea,
Mm,
an herbal tea, and it was lemon with ginger, and it worked for us.
mm.
It helped us, and we were drinking it every day. And it's just, I guess, yeah, take your vitamins. If you're young, start taking vitamins. It's gonna help you in the long run.
I
Because
like that you say that because I remember uh, taking vitamins younger, and I had a family member tell me, and I think I knew at the time that it in my opinion, it didn't make sense. I think it was still a good idea to take in vitamins, but if anyone feels this way, I'm curious what you think. You're welcome to let us know in the comments below. And it's this. Um, I experienced something when I was, I think, in high school, and I was told, "No, mijo, you don't need vitamins. You're young. You don't take vitamins until you need them." And I started thinking, well, where else are we going to, do I have these vitamins already? And at what point is it is it too late? And is that when I need the vitamins? Or could it be could I just get the vitamins and just have that already be there? Because I don't know where else I'm getting these nutritions, these vitamins and minerals. I don't know where else I'd be getting it aside
like,
from the direct source of it,
and some of your
especially if you're not
vegetables,
eating healthy.
yeah, that's the problem. If you're not eating healthy, then you have to take your vitamins because most of your greens, your vegetables, fruits, your milk. If some people cannot drink milk because they're
Hmm.
lactose, so they have to figure out another way to get the calcium.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to take vitamins, iron in your beans, stuff.
And the good thing about the internet is that there's so much information out there that, we don't have, like, for example, we don't have to be limited to thinking that calcium is specifically from milk. And even then I hear different arguments about, we shouldn't even be drinking milk because, it's coming from a cow. And, technically humans need to be drinking milk when we're kids from within, like from our mother. And, but when we're adults and, older kids, how often is that happening where a mother's generating milk? And so it's like, I don't even understand that there's an argument against
Yeah.
drinking milk. And it makes me wonder, well, why are we drinking milk? And that's coming from a cow. And is it even really milk? And why is it that there's all these different kind of variants of milk? And there's almond milk. It's not really milk, but it's apparently better. And I'm like, okay, it's, and I guess that's the beauty of the internet. There's influx of information,
Yes.
and cool. In my opinion, I'd rather have the access of the waves and overwhelm of information than be lied to, than be limited to, here's what you need to know, and that's all. Don't look anywhere else. Here it is. Nothing else. It's just this.
Yep.
No.
It's hard now. Before you didn't have the internet. Now you do.
I'm curious, how do you think right now, if this pandemic happened, no internet, what comes to mind on what life would be like?
It would be harder. I think it would be a lot harder because there's no way of finding out information. Like right now, we have different websites we can go to, like the CDC website, and they have information. Back then, you would have to be on the phone calling people in order to get information. So,
Or
if
what's told to
that,
us on TV?
if this, yeah, and what's on TV, but if this would be happening back when we were younger, it would be gridlock on the phone. You wouldn't get a hold of anybody because everybody would be on there. And now we have different websites, uh, different things on the web that we can look up, and they end up helping you to find information that you need.
Hmm. Ooh, just that thought alone, I'm like, what would it be? How would our thinking be like? Because just the mere fact that someone could even be doubtful of information that's told of us, not saying that there's reason to be doubtful for myself, but I do see that there's people that suggest that there should be reason to be doubtful. And it raises the question, well, is there a degree of, fairness to be doubtful? Because and perhaps it raises the opportunity to be able to challenge one's own thinking, like, well, how much do I believe? 100%? Do I believe 99%? 98? Can we feel the difference between, like, how would you describe, having, okay, I believe everything 100% versus I believe 95%. I believe everything, but 95%, there is that 5% that I just don't understand. And I wish I knew more, but man, I don't know. Something feels weird. What comes to mind when you hear that?
It's just like I'm telling you, it's hard because you'll have a lot of people thinking they have symptoms and rushing to a hospital and
Mm,
making a lot more problems at a hospital when real people need to be there that are really sick,
mm,
and there's not a room for them to go
yeah.
to.
especially because when it's highly talked about, and there's nothing you can do, and it's like, well, I must have it.
So they're going to rush to any facility, ER, whatever,
I
clinic.
wonder how much that's a problem. Like, I wonder if that was a problem at the beginning. Excuse me, beginning. If that was a problem at the beginning, or if that has always been a problem, or it comes in waves. You know, I'd be very curious. I personally haven't heard much about, about that being a problem. But once again, I mean, I'm.
But I think most of the hospitals
Hmm,
have protocols. So
yes.
like if you come in with symptoms, like say that you're having shortness of breath, they'll put you in a unit, like I guess a COVID unit, and then they'll assess you in that unit where you don't get anybody else.
Hmm,
That's see, because only people that are in the waiting rooms at hospitals are people that are getting seen or COVID. But ERs already have areas where it's designated for COVID unit.
hmm.
So, like when I went to the hospital when I was in feeling well last year, I went in and they asked me all these questions, all these COVID questions, and I was like, no. So they had me in a different unit, and they have like where the COVID unit is, it says COVID on it, and it has a plastic. So anything behind that plastic was all COVID unit. So,
Hmm.
but they're I think now I think if this would be in when we were growing up, we would have a total chaos in
Yeah.
hospitals because
Yeah.
nobody
No.
would know what to do. But
And
now,
by the way, I want to make it clear that laugh was certainly just on the just trying to imagine that is just it's like unimaginable. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, if things were already crazy during these times, and you got to see the long lines and people, buying up, stocking up toilet paper uh, over other necessities, and maybe that's just that was just because the amount of production for toilet paper has a certain rhythm and stocking them up. And if you have just a little bit more people buying it, they'll disappear. And then visually, you see that there's no toilet paper. Quick, there's a sign that there's an indication that things are falling apart. We got to buy toilet paper because that's not, they're selling out. But maybe it was just more of a visual thing that, well, they just don't produce them as fast. And if people just a little bit fat, let's just say what I'm trying to say, supply and demand. If the supply has a certain rhythm and the demand just got just a little bit more, therefore, I wonder if that may result in the dramatic visual of there's no toilet paper, and then the behavioral spike on what does that mean, and the confusion. If that was crazy, hey, what would that be like? I remember during 9/11, the only thing that I saw, once again, I was a kid. I don't, I'd be curious to see what life would be like through an adult's eyes, like through my adult eyes then, but I only have my child eyes. And what I saw was people were stacking up at the gas station. The gas station, people were lining up that day, 9/11, that evening. People were, you know, that was the thing. That was the only thing. Even though that was, I think that was a thing this time around. But I find it interesting how toilet paper was a strong icon, indicator of this kind of situation that we're
yeah, and
experiencing today.
it's so crazy that you say that on 9/11 about gas because there's if people were stocking it up for like to make fires and all that, there's other ways, other products that you can use to create a fire.
Was it for that? I'm not too sure if that was the reason. Was it?
They
I'd
were
be
they were
curious if,
stock, they were stocking up just for the vehicles. They were just hogging gas.
yeah,
But most
like
of
just
the time,
stacking it up.
but some people were also using it to create fire,
Fires,
and
yeah.
little things. But you have household items you can use, like survival kits. You can create your own survival kit at home.
Hmm. Isn't it
With
interesting how this, even just the word survival kit, I've been noticing that's quite normal to even think about stocking up on food supply. And if you think about it, we have medical kits should something happen, and should something happen with our food supply, technically we would, how long could we last without food? A lot shorter than than the reasons why we have a medical kit, right? Meaning,
well,
it.
actually, you do have kits. You do have meal kits.
Ooh.
I you have in the military they're called MREs, meals
Mm.
ready to eat. So all you do, it's a prepackaged meal. It has fruit. It has your main course, a breath mint, a sanitary wipe. Your even the new ones are coming out with Tabasco sauce in the
Ooh.
kit.
Jesse, I gotta ask you, during these times, in your opinion, in your honest heart of hearts, looking at the way things are unfolding and just the uncertainty and blah blah blah, blah all that, do you think the idea of stacking up food, like uh, what is it called, food supply, the ones that even last for, they could last for 25 years in the storage, uh, do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's always been a good idea, no matter the situation, but especially today? What comes to mind?
It's a good idea because it depends. Like for us, we don't get tornadoes. We don't get like hurricanes. We don't get that much. But like we're up north and all the other states that get the tornadoes and all that, they store it in their bunkers where they go and hide for tornadoes and stuff. So, in something like that, that would be good
Mhm.
because you're dealing with
Pandemic and food
something.
supply and all that.
Yeah, you're dealing that your house is gone, so you don't have any food, but you have a food supply that can you can survive off of for about 6 months till you get help.
So maybe it's okay to have that in the back of our minds, in the things that we think about in the day to day.
Yes.
Well, Jesse, I have to tell you, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you took the time to, you know, to share your experience and what's been going on for you, and I'm happy that everyone's healthy, everyone's recovered, and may your mom recover from the need from such a oxygen tank, and if that's what's necessary, well, then let that shine strong. You know what I mean? I want to ask you a final question along the lines of what we've been talking about. But before we get to that, where can we find you, brother? Let the world know.
I have my Instagram and I think he has it on
Yeah,
there.
I'll have that plugged in
Okay.
right there. I'll even make it magnified there.
On my Instagram, you can hit us up on our podcast
Woo.
on the bottom link.
Hit
If
that.
you have
Oh yes, let's make that clear. Hit the thing that looks like this, that thumbs up. If you feel resonance, we welcome you to smash that like button. Make it so that we let the algorithms and the world and your heart know that you had a good time. That
and
subscribe
also
button,
hit that subscribe button.
yes, make that gray, y'all, if it's not
And
already. And there's a little bell, make that pop. Essentially, anytime there's an upload such as this, you'll get notification, and you're welcome to jump in and say what's up. thoughts that come through mind, there's the comments below. You're welcome to express. Also, should you
And on
be
top of
curious,
that,
go for it.
and on top of that, please wear your mask, hand sanitizer, wash your hands, do everything you can
The
where we
protocols.
can make this pandemic go away. Thank
And
you.
and perhaps if it does not go away, shall we move forward? Shall we find ways to accept what it means to move forward? And who knows? We live in an era of unknown, happy awakening, right? What can you share further? I wanted to ask you, but I think you touched base on it. Oh, by the way, should you be curious, anyone listening, be curious what other people think of what it is that we're talking about, that people are thinking of such times. Hit that share button. Share button. And yeah, we welcome the extension of I. So here's the question. What further things, and once again we touched on this earlier, what further things from your experience are you finding that's helping you be on the refining of good health side of the each day, like you mentioned, working out? But what does that look like for you that you are happy to share? And you mentioned that you're cooking more. What is that like for you, and what's something that you can recommend to others?
I would recommend starting off small. An hour, not even an hour, 30 minutes, at least go walking, go up and down the block or around the block just to get your heart rate going and start getting back into a routine of doing something.
Sew it
And
into the day.
yes, and that's what I'm learning right now. I've been starting to going back to walking and doing here. I ended up using my garage. I turned it into a little workout. I have a punching
Yes.
bag. I have dumbbells.
For the
Uh,
body, get in the zone.
yep. So we I'm trying to get back into it, and I'm bad at eating.
Mm.
That's my downfall. I love
But eating
all.
is so fun, bro.
Yes, but I don't eat the proper things. I don't eat the right things. And I'm trying to change it for the better. I want to I what I really want to do is try to do a YouTube and do like a life
Okay. Like a
for me.
vlog of like cataloging your journey.
Yes.
Do that,
And
brother.
and doing not teaching but showing other people, because I've seen people on YouTube and different platforms that they're setting themselves up for something better, and I think I can be an example
Yeah.
of
And
that.
ultimately, look, check this out. 20 years from now, we're leaving a footprint for our family to also have an opportunity to reflect further than we could even imagine.
So that's something that I'm wanting to look into and
Well,
start.
well, there we have it, y'all. It's in the puro efforting, puro sewing it into the day, puro trying. And as long as it's like the thought of, there's really not a wrong way if we're trying. It's like along the lines of maybe it's about wronging until there are better ways that make themselves accessible and available to our experience. And with that, thank you for closing that thought. Good day, everybody. May goodness continue to